Hey, Jordan, how's it going? What's up?
What's up? What's up, Rob?
Again, I asked you. I thought I asked you what's up. Now you're putting me on the spot. I was asking you what's up because I thought I would kick it to you and get kind of the conversational ball rolling, you know?
I don't see what's up as an actual question. I see what's up as more of like a hey. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, nothing's really up. I'm sitting here. We're doing the intro to the podcast. I'm watching the Toronto Raptors game on the other screen, and it's really just making me very unhappy. The season's taking a turn for the worse. Sure. I was getting a little cocky. Some of our earlier conversations because of their success against the Cavs, and then nothing has gone right for the Toronto Raptors this season. I'm not very happy about it.
Yeah,
that's all I got going on, really.
Well, if you want entertainment, Rob, you can head on over to our YouTube channel, where members of our community are roasting you in the comments. That's pretty entertaining.
I think it escaped into the broader YouTube ecosystem.
Yeah, I did.
Listen, haters, just because some of the haters on YouTube don't think that I could wrestle a mountain lion to a draw, guess what? That just that's fuel for me. That just fuels my grind.
I like this one from
I took
a guy
that
named
personally.
Wyatt. Bro's crazy. Ain't no way you beating a mountain lion. Someone replies, I mean, there are multiple instances that hikers have strangled mountain lions. Someone else replies, hikers have to be in excellent shape to be able to hike. That guy,
I saw that and I was like, oh,
you
no.
know.
That's, yeah.
And Wyatt replies, that guy ain't him, though. You reply, give me like a month to train first, at least. I'm not going in cold. Someone says, Rob, you'll be going in cold somewhere if you tried to fight a mountain lion.
Yeah. And again, we got into this a little bit during our conversation with Manny Fidel, who's coming up next. I thought maybe some of those comments were maybe taking it a little too far, getting a little personal. You know, it's all in good fun. I thought maybe it was a little over the line, over the top, but whatever. As usual, I am a professional. It just washes right off my back. But for other people, though, I'm worried about them and how they might react if they get that same kind of reaction. Not that it bothers me, but I want to make sure that we have a safe space for people to appear on the show. They're not going to worry about getting any kind of targeted harassment like I do, which again rolls right off my back, but. Not everyone has that. Not everyone has the same kind of mental fortitude as me. A lesser
podcaster would have crumbled under the weight of these comments.
Yeah. In addition to the weight of the multiple people challenging my taste in films as well. And if you did not hear the previous bonus episode that we did with our friend Jared Holt, I did address the somewhat tense conversation that we had with Cam Katsky and his somewhat aggressive diatribe about Avatar: The Way of Water and my film taste. I believe he called it, if I remember correctly, a stupid movie for babies and idiots or something along those lines. Again, maybe a little over the top. I did address this controversy in our previous bonus episode with Jared Holt that you can access if you're a subscriber to this program. And I really put the Avatar haters on notice. I think I wanted to unleash an epic rant that I think should settle this subject once and for all. We don't need to discuss this anymore. I didn't actually ask Manny about his stance on this, kind of because I wanted to give the subject a rest a little bit. I thought maybe our listeners might be getting a little tired of hearing me talk about this, but
yeah.
I did put the failing, irrelevant Avatar hater community on notice. And I gave what I thought was the final word on this quote unquote argument.
Yeah, I think maybe 5 episodes in a row on Avatar might not be the best idea, but here we are.
Yeah. It's exclusively an Avatar React podcast now. That's what we're pivoting to video and exclusive Avatar content and like various animal fight thought experiments.
Mm-hmm. That was fun. That was a fun conversation with Jared, though, about which animal we could take in a fight. I like that. But yeah, to reiterate, we're doing more video now, and we're publishing those on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, as well as our Twitter. And that's made possible because we now have a better recording platform thanks to our subscribers. So if you want to subscribe, in addition to helping support this show and our capabilities for this show, you also get a bonus episode every week. You can head on over to theinsurgents.substack.com to subscribe. And there, for just $5 a month, you can help keep this show going and also continue to upgrade our capabilities. And more video, more shows, more everything. It's great. We really, really appreciate the people who have subscribed over the past few weeks. You've made all this possible. And the people who have subscribed now for a couple of years, we really, really appreciate it. We're going into our 3rd year doing this show. Is that right?
Somehow it is correct. Yeah, somehow it's right. Yeah.
I love
Absolutely.
it, though. I love it.
Yeah, same, very much same. And again, just to reiterate what Jordan's saying, thank you so much to all our wonderful paid interns. And you want to get to our conversation with Manny Fidel? Because this is a fun one.
Yeah, this is great. We get into the Damar Hamlin NFL story, everything around that, as well as we discuss Kevin McCarthy's ongoing quest to become Speaker of the House and the hilarity around that. So some sad, some heavy, some fun. It's a mix of everything. Great conversation with Manny Fidel.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for that. Manny Fidel is going to be joining the program right after this. Okay, because here's my question. So what we're always told, right, about capitalism, versus socialism is that the private sector can figure these things out efficiently, way better than the public sector, right? Can deliver these services such as internet, high-speed internet. Now, Manny, you're in New York City. It's the epicenter of global capitalism, wealthiest country in the human history, right? And it's where all the wealth is concentrated.
That's right.
And these internet companies, they're in good old New York City, the Windy City, as it's called, as it's known. They still can't get their shit together. Is that what you're telling me?
That is what I'm telling you. It is in New York City, we have the opposite effect, which is that there's such monopolies in different neighborhoods of internet services, which means that one company will have like a whole borough and they don't have to be good because they're the only option. And that's what's happening to me right now.
That's one of the reasons why I don't want to move. Even though I've got issues with my apartment complex, I have 2 choices. I have 2 choices for internet. And because of that, the prices are much lower and the speeds are good. I never have issues. And I know, many parts of DC only have Comcast or only have one provider. Many neighborhoods in DC only have one provider or one option. And I don't want to be in a situation where I only can have Comcast and they're just going to keep raising your bill every year. What are you going to do? Not have internet?
Nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Do hotspot. Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Great system.
But I'm glad I'm here. Part of it is the monopolies and part of it is also my luck. Like my internet was working all day until you guys asked me to be on this podcast.
Yeah.
And of course,
the podcast goblins got in there.
Rob, do you know what I learned about Manny over the past few weeks?
What's that?
This guy is fucking goated at bowling.
Really?
This guy is like, he's unstoppable. He's like the LeBron James of bowling. I'm putting it out there now. He kicked my fucking ass. He said, I was in town. He's like, oh, you want to go bowling? I thought, whoa, what a fun Sunday activity. And this guy is just immediately right out of the gate, just bowling strikes and then just doing finger guns and blowing smoke. And it's just what the fuck? Put the bumpers up, man. I haven't bowled in 15 years.
I like suggesting activities where I can essentially just dunk on people and just, that's my favorite thing to do. Yeah. No, bowling is fun. Dominance. And Jordan's being a little bit humble. He almost beat me in the second game, but he totally choked it. The third game.
And then I choked in the final frame. I was cruising. I got my stride. I got my accuracy down. I got my form down. and I was cruising, and then Manny started getting like some spares and strikes near the end of the game. And the final frame, all I needed to do was hit like 5 or 6, and I would have won.
Yeah,
and just hit like just somehow hit like the back corner and got one pin.
It's the pressure, man. It gets to you. The bowling is 80% mental, man. That's what they say. That's what I say, anyways.
I'm just thinking about Jordan, like as with Bill Murray at the end of Kingpin, with the hair flying all over the place and the this unique, the special ball, the custom ball with the rose in it.
Nah, man, Jordan's good. I think if Jordan went semi-consistently, he would outpace me pretty quickly. I saw the talent. I felt like a college football scout. I was like, this is a prospect. He's going to get there. Yeah. I almost don't want him to go bowling for that reason.
I want to go, though. I thought it was fun. That's an activity that I have never once thought of in my adult life to go do until you suggested it. I want to go again. I'm bowling pilled.
Let's do it when you're back.
I'm awful. Absolutely awful.
Are you?
Maybe if I went regularly, I could figure it out, but I haven't been for many years. I think if I were to show up in one of these situations, it would be extremely embarrassing. If you want me to shoot jumpers, I can do that. I can hoop. Many people don't know this about me, but it's true. I can hoop.
That is something I would not have guessed, I have to say.
I can't. We're going to get more disbelief. Rob is currently getting like decimated in our YouTube comments over last episode saying that he could fight a mountain lion and come to a draw. And obviously that was a joke. But like,
wait, I saw a good one yesterday, which is if a pilot on a plane was incapacitated for some reason. Oh, you guys went over this? Wow,
yeah, we did. We decided we could.
What were your answers?
Yeah, we could land it easy.
Oh yeah, I'm landing that. I'm doing barrel rolls like that. There's no problem for me. I got that easily.
As I said in the previous episode, it depends on, it's like, if it's a storm situation, there's heavy winds or a lightning storm. Okay, then we might have a problem. But if we're just talking a clear day, pilot incapacitated, to have someone in the tower or whatever talk me through it, no problem.
Oh, I've seen a few videos of people actually doing this, but in a flight simulator, and the directions they're getting are literally just like, turn this little dial 5 dots to the right. Press this number sequence. It's just like tiny little sequences like that, and then the plane just lands. It's quite magical, problem. And I can do that easily.
Yeah, no, I did see some
my internet connection was bad.
Yeah, I did see some of those YouTube comments though, maybe a little bit excessive. I think some of the commentary a little personal. Some of the comments we were getting there about my ability to take on this animal. You'll notice that I didn't say that it would be easy or that I would easily defeat the mountain lion. I simply said that I think that I could take it to a draw. And there's all kinds of people kind of really unnecessarily ramping up the rhetoric there in the response to that. That was disappointing. Disappointing to see I thought I expected better from the YouTube community, but
hey man, in soccer you get 1 point for a draw. There's no shame in that at all.
Yeah. I don't know.
I thought those were very funny. Like, it went quickly from like, this motherfucker thinks he could fight a mountain lion to like, oh, with that voice and those glasses? Yeah. Nah.
Look at that piece of shit. It's like, whoa, easy. Like, so I'm sorry. Good. Anyway, I'm like Fidel. History will vindicate me.
Manny, thank you for joining us. How's it going?
Absolutely. I've been waiting for you guys to ask me to come on. I mean, I think it's been like 2 years, so I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm glad I'm back.
Oh, has it been that long? You came on in 2020, I think, right?
I'm talking shit. Are we allowed to cuss on here? Probably.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm happy to be here.
He came on in 2020. That was literally 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about Lloyd Austin. I remember this now. We were talking about how they were like trying to champion Lloyd Austin as this incredible like diversity hire, and I just thought it was all bullshit.
No, well, that's progress. Don't you know? That changes our foreign policy.
Yeah.
It's all about. That's actually like we'll get into that when we get to the Kevin McCarthy speaker drama, because like now Republicans are trying to do the same tokenization thing with
right.
Oh, what's his name? Byron Daniels, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
The Freedom Caucus guy that they keep voting for.
Right.
And now they're trying to frame it as some like equity move. They're like, this would be the first black male speaker, and like this is like a historic move, and just like, all right, relax, just relax.
I always love that when it's like, oh, don't you want to vote for history here? And it's like, no, that guy sucks ass too. I think he's also terrible.
Yeah. But But Manny, what have you been playing lately? We have to do gaming chat before anything.
Absolutely. And I'd like to let our viewers, our listeners know that after 2 hard years, I was finally able to secure a PlayStation 5 last night.
Ooh.
So, I feel really happy. I feel really grateful to be here. I can't believe it. It hasn't hit yet.
This is your first interview after the acquisition, right?
This is the post game interview.
Okay. This is great.
I had to pay out the ass for the God of War edition of the PlayStation 5, so whatever. I'm just taking the L on that, but I hear that's a really great game anyway, so I'll be playing that. Mostly I just started Death Stranding for the first time. Nice. I'm totally sold. I love it. It's great. The plot is incredible. And the graphics are so beautiful. I'm playing that on my PC, so I get to see like the PC version of the game. Did you pick it up in like the
Epic sale on Christmas?
It was no, it was on Xbox Game Pass for free, and I pay I think it's like $15 a month or whatever for that. Yeah. So yeah, playing through that. And then the new Warzone. Yeah, and I know you hate that game.
I do. Yeah.
But I am playing it, and I am getting dubs, I have to say.
Well, congrats. Yeah, I can't do Call of Duty like at all anymore. I'm done with the franchise.
I know, I remember this, but the tragedy was that you were great at it. I remember just being carried like a motherfucker in that game by you.
I'm good at shooters, which is ironic because I hate guns and I hate gun culture, but I'm really good at shooting video games. It's so bizarre.
Yeah,
Rob,
so that's what I'm playing.
Oh, sorry, did you ask me?
Yeah, what about you? What are you playing?
I'm playing Fortnite still, and I got weirdly fixated on this like one of these like addictive mobile games, Mob Control.
Okay.
I'm just playing Mob Control all the time. Yeah. Where you launch out these tiny little mobs.
Is that like the level? You're like a level.
I can't tell if this is
boss?
A bit.
No, it's not. It's not like that kind of mob. It's like mob, like monster. Like you control this little army, and you send it. You shoot little guys out of a cannon, and then they hit like a little multiplier, and then you have your opponent shooting a bunch of guys at their multiplier, and your armies like collide with one another, and you're trying to take over their base and stuff.
Okay. That's incredible,
Sounds
man.
Fun.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I got. That's what I got going on. I did pick up Death Stranding, but I haven't installed it yet.
Nice. I need to
Looking
finish
forward
it.
to getting into that.
So we've got Death Stranding and we've got Mob Control.
That's right. Yeah,
I like that. That's great. The leftist mob.
The woke Mob Control. Have you guys? I have a funny question that will result in an embarrassing story. But have you guys ever got suckered and like convinced to buy something off of Instagram ads that you keep getting repeatedly?
Well, this game I got off an ad from another mobile game that I was playing. Yeah, it was when you have those mobile games and then it pauses every like 5 minutes to show you an ad for another game, and I was like, this looks kind of all right. This one, I'm gonna give this a shot. So right. Yes, and then I ended up paying $5 for it, so I didn't have to see more ads in this new game that I just got. So to answer your question, yes, I have.
Manny, have you?
For the first time, a few weeks ago, I bought a sweater that was advertised to me on Instagram from a Japanese clothing company, and it took like 6 weeks to get here. It fits well, but only because on the website they make very clear that their sizes are different than our sizes, and that like you have to order I had to order an extra large, and I'm normally a medium, and they just like put that in the fine print. No. They're like, no returns if you got the wrong size.
That could have been a disaster.
Yeah. I would have had to give it to my little sister or something.
I got really into ads this year. I'm so fast. As Manny, you know why. I like on another point, which we'll get into, I think in hopefully a week or two. I just was like became really fascinated with Instagram and mobile ads this year. As just like a concept, but there was a couple things that I actually did buy off of Instagram, and one of those products I kept getting these ads for, and I thought they were very bizarre, and I would send them to Brooke Marks from TYT, who some of you might know, just because I thought they were so funny and bizarre, and we always send like the weirdest things we see on Instagram to each other. And this ad, all these ads for the same product were like, oh, like it was like TikTok style videos of people being like, oh, my cousin or my sister or my husband thinks that he can't afford blank. And like the whole product, like the whole ad pitch around these products was like, oh, my friend thinks they can't afford this and I can, and it's so good. And I thought this was such a weird concept. And so I kept watching these ads, so I would obviously get more of them, and I kept sending them to her. And she eventually watched them so much that she bought this product and tried it and said she liked it. So then I was like, well, fuck, do I need to buy this now? Am I going to like it? So starting today, I am now an active user of Colon Broom, a product that I got repeatedly on Instagram. And apparently it's just some like dietary fiber supplement. And I don't know how. I would assume because I follow
it's not
a bunch
like a
of
physical broom.
I was like, whoa, wait. What website did you get this from?
Colon Broom. It's like some drink that like is like helps with like your fiber.
Like a detox thing?
Not even that. It's just like, here's a bunch of fiber and it'll reduce bloating, which I'm going to try it. I don't know. She says it works.
Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, I don't want to be bloated. Nobody wants to be bloated. It's 2023.
No one wants that.
I hate
2022 is the year of the bloat. We're leaving that behind.
We're leaving that in 2022. I have bought some clothes off Instagram as well. Around this summer, I decided that I was going to start rebranding as like a wacky shirt guy. So I got a couple of like funky shirts.
That's such a dad move.
That's great.
That is such
you gotta
a
bring,
dad move.
You got to bring that to the bowling alley.
The 5-inch inseams with the funky shirt. It's a killer combo. But it's winter now. It's not really the same thing. It's more of like a spring, summer type look. So maybe I'll get back into that. It is weird just in general how Instagram, like I remember Instagram was a app for sharing photos with your friends, and now that seems to be primarily what it's for. Is it's like a mall basically, and all the pictures that you shared with people, that's kind of just like no one does that anymore. You know, now it's like a TikTok clone and a mall basically.
Right. I remember. I mean, last year I was so close to quitting Instagram, or not like fully quitting, but just like really deprioritizing it, and then
quitting.
Right. Exactly. And then I got a job at NBC where it's literally my job now. I cannot escape this app.
Yeah. I used to sour on it. And then once they really started pushing Reels and I saw other people pushing what they do with Reels, I figured, okay, that's something I got to do, I guess.
Yeah. No, it has some value in there for sure.
I hope it all just dies. We made a TikTok for this show. And I've been doing it for like a week and a half, and I fucking hate that platform so much. I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being. But I'm doing it for you, the listeners.
There you go. I was just going to ask how you're going to get to the Zoomer demographic of your audience. It's not fair to them to not run the TikTok, Jordan.
True.
My mountain lion clip didn't get any traction on there.
No, nobody said anything bad on TikTok about your mountain lion fight. It was just YouTube. Like the claws were out.
Yeah.
You like that? The claws were out.
I want to boo, but I'm not gonna boo.
Yeah, the claws were out. I was getting mauled.
That's right. He's getting mauled in the comments. But Manny, you're here to talk about, among other things, the story out of the NFL that quickly became a national story on Monday night during what was slated to be like the marquee matchup in the final weeks of the NFL between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. Early in the game, Bills safety Damar Hamlin, while making a routine tackle, suffered what appeared to be, or what was, cardiac arrest. And it was unclear in the first couple minutes what was happening. He after making that tackle, he stood up, took about a step back, collapsed. Trainers were called on the field. He received medical attention, and the game went to a commercial break, as it typically does during an injury that could take a minute or two. And people were unsure. It just looked like, oh, maybe he tore something, maybe he broke something. Happens. It's a rough game. As time went on, it became clear, multiple commercial breaks during the Monday Night Football broadcast. After coming back from the third one, you saw an ambulance on the field and players gathered around them. Then we started to see footage of people crying. And then it became clear this is so much more than just a standard football injury. After, several minutes and him eventually being taken off the field, still with no real clarity of what happened, it was, the call was made by Joe Buck, the announcer, that each team would have 5 minutes to warm up and the game would resume, which struck a lot of people as odd because it just appeared as though something very serious happened. The coaches then conferred with the refs. They went to the locker room. It became clear, okay, this isn't going to happen in 5 minutes. Players were visibly shaken up. As I said, it later turned out, and we found out later that he had a cardiac arrest. He had to be given CPR, an AED on the field. Like, he was shocked. And he was given CPR and treatment for several minutes. And he had to be resuscitated multiple times on the field. Over the past few days, we've seen just how serious it was. He was taken to the University of Cincinnati Hospital. He was in critical condition. He wasn't breathing on his own, but his vitals did stabilize, thankfully. There's still no real developments. We're recording this on Wednesday. There's still no, tangible material developments. But I'm curious, from your perspective, Manny, you're someone who, covers news, is a huge football fan. You understand, yes, football is a violent game, and you understand the criticisms around the sport. You and I talk about football constantly because we're both big Ohio State fans. And even looking at that, like the hit that Marvin Harrison Jr. took just a couple nights before, and you compare that with the incident in the Bills and Bengals game with Damar Hamlin, like, by comparison, the Harrison hit was much more brutal and much more dangerous. But what happened here in this game was a freak accident. It's obviously deeply unfortunate, but this is just a total, freak accident. He was hitting the right place. It seems like, if this is the case, it's commotio cordis, or I can't remember the exact name, but it's basically, people are speculating that he was basically, if you're hit on the right time in the chest with enough force, right in the right spot at the right time during your electrocardio cycle, it can stop your heart. And it's happened to other athletes before. It happens a lot in baseball. It happened to Jerry Lawler of then WWF, I think, but now WWE.
I was there.
You were there?
Yeah, that was in Montreal a couple years ago. Jerry Lawler's heart stopped when he was doing commentary after wrestling a match earlier that night.
Oh my God.
Geez.
It was very dark, but please continue.
We should get into that, and then also the heart incident too, because George Schmitz was at the heart incident, because that was in Missouri. But Manny, I'm curious what your takeaways were in that moment. What your thoughts were about the NFL trying to restart the game and now trying to say that they never had any intention of starting the game, and the fallout since. Conversations around it, people's criticisms of the NFL. Is it warranted? And where do we go from here? I mean, it's a lot to put on your plate all at once, but I'm just curious what your general takeaways are.
Yeah, no, it's all good, but we can talk through it. As you said, I'm a huge football fan, huge Ohio State fan. Rest in peace to them. But this hit that, for example, you brought up the Marvin Harrison Jr. hit that happened. There are ways on an administrative level to filter out those kinds of hits, because those have a little more malice to them. They're a little more intentional. And the conversation around Damar Hamlin's hit is a little touch and go, because it was such a freak accident, like you mentioned. I mean, that was as routine a tackle as I've ever seen. And so there have been like sports personalities talking about how do we make football safer for the players around Damar Hamlin, but that is just a really tough, the physicality, like the physics of that is really tough to filter out of the game. It was just such a normal hit. For me, the more important conversation should be centered around the relationship between the NFL and its players. Damar Hamlin is a couple of years into the league. I think he makes somewhere around $800,000 a year, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you
low in NFL standards.
Yeah, low in NFL standards, and when you consider the fact that after this injury, he might not ever play football again, and is now probably going to be tasked with like the most excessive medical bills and insurance bills that you can imagine. You start to have a conversation about what is the NFL doing to mitigate this situation, and the answer is not much. the current, or between the last collective bargaining agreement between the players and the NFL and the current agreement, disability payments went from $22,000 a month to $4,000 a month. And what I hope, I'll put it this way. Our job is, what we do for a living is like analyze politics. I love sports, but I'm not a sports analyst. But what I know is that, in politics, we often call out and try to better understand like corporate greed and how corporations prioritize profit over its workers. And while like the media does do a lot of reporting on that, it's not necessarily going to be on like your local news station, right? You're not going to hear about collective bargaining agreements before like the meteorologist comes on. But with the NFL, everybody consumes the NFL. Everybody watches football. And if you don't watch football, you're probably going to watch the Super Bowl. And I just hope that in terms of consumption, because of how public the NFL is, people start to see the problematic relationship between the NFL and its players and can hopefully resonate with it and take away something and realize, that level of greed is prevalent in most, if not all, industries in the United States. And so, reasonable people will say this might not be the time to talk about that aspect of this. We're still waiting to hear what's going to happen with Damar Hamlin, but I would argue this is probably the best time to talk about it, and hopefully there's something we can come away with this.
One interesting wrinkle to the story that I found interesting anyway was that the decision to postpone the game didn't come from the NFL. It came from the Players Association. It came from the union. Basically, they stepped in and said, no, we're not putting the players back on the field after this has happened. It's just not happening, which is I think it's a pretty cool example of this kind of real time worker solidarity moment, right? Where they came together to make this big call when the NFL was obviously pushing them back, wanted them to get back on the field. There's a lot of money at stake. Like Jordan was saying, it's a big, as Skip Bayless pointed out as well, it's a big game, is like with all kinds of implications, all kinds of ad money, all kinds of stuff on the line. And I thought it was really cool that the Players Association just stepped in and said like, no, we're not doing this. The game's over.
Yeah. I also love the NFL thinking that we're going to believe that, they came out and said, we never said anything about 5 minutes. They denied the allegation. But, we're not talking about like a leak. We're talking about Joe Buck, who's just like a legendary NFL announcer. He is not going to say anything on air unless it's confirmed already, unless it's coming straight from a reliable source. And the idea that the NFL was like, hey, this is a terrible accident, but the show must go on, is the least surprising thing I've ever heard in my life. We are, weeks, maybe a couple months removed from Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa being concussed and then being put back into the game 4 days later and then being injured again. I thought it was so laughable that the NFL wanted us to believe that they didn't actually say that.
Yeah, the Skip Bayless tweet. I mean, I think it's a lot of people were wondering what was going to happen because this was such a unique circumstance, which I'll get into, the reactions overall, and I thought some of them were misguided. But because this was such a unique circumstance, that suspending the game was even on the table, I think led to some people wondering, okay, well, what happens? Because this does have playoff implications. There's not much time left to make that game up. But the conclusion, I think, and I can't remember who at Defector wrote it, so my apologies, but a lot of great stuff has been published on Defector, so definitely go check out them. But I can't remember who specifically wrote it. They just said, who cares? Don't have the game. The Bills, it doesn't count. Bills get home field advantage. Bengals, whatever. They'll be fine. Like, they're still in really good shape. It's not like one team gets knocked out. So it doesn't have like that big of implications. Just Bills will get home field advantage and a bye. Okay, is that really that big of a deal? It's the least they could get in this scenario. They just watched one of their teammates almost die. It's like I think it's like the playoff equivalent of just someone gets hurt in a soccer game and they kick the ball out to stop the game. the other team will just throw them the ball back, give them the ball back. It's like good sportsmanship. Shouldn't we celebrate that? And Skip Bayless is just such a hated person. I think he was just pointing that out at the wrong time. And because of and this is something that that Tom Williams pointed out last night when he and I were talking about it. He's like, this is just 20 years of hatred building up to this point. I'm like, Shannon. I did like Shannon Sharp's comments on Undisputed today because he took yesterday off. I would imagine he was fuming. That hits home for him. Yeah, Sterling Sharp was like paralyzed on the field. Like he's definitely like extremely mindful about players' well-being. And Shannon had a long storied career with the Broncos. So I hate him, but I also do think, not to defend him, but I do think it was just people hate him so much, and that's why they
when your whole job is to be a hater, then that's going to be the response that you get. Yeah. And that's the thing about people like Skip Bayless and a lot of people in sports media is often I find them detestable people, but I also do find them very entertaining. I see it as like a wrestling thing, right? It's like Skip is a heel. Skip Bayless is a heel. That's right. And just like once that's your persona, then you can't really like slip out of that in those moments.
It was really interesting the day after that tweet, Skip Bayless, who's a known LeBron James hater, went on about how great LeBron James was after his tweet. And so he was like essentially trying to like get back on everyone's good side. Which is so funny how like the sports commentary works. It's so insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, like the Bills and the Bengals are both good teams. We're not talking about a team that is trying to become a wild card. So who cares? Cancel the game. They both have one less game on their schedule. The world is not going to explode. Let's just, move on. And I doubt that they're just going to cancel it. I do think they're going to replay it at some point. So it's like at that point, then yeah, great. Just change the day of the game. I couldn't believe how many people were like worried about like the outcome of the season if we just moved the game 2 weeks.
Yeah. Like it's one thing to be curious because it's just like, oh, what does happen now? This is a huge moment. You're within that curiosity is a recognition of just how serious and severe this injury and this moment was for everyone involved. And then you're like, where do they go from here? Within that conversation is, mental exploration of the future of the season for them. Mm-hmm. That's where it begins and ends. It's not like the NFL. For the NFL, it was 5 minutes of warm up, get back out there. For everybody else, it was like, wonder what's going to happen now. I hope he's okay. And like, his well-being should be the center of everyone's thoughts. And for the most part it has, but it really just shows the callousness of the NFL. And, as other sports writers have pointed out, you saw this in every other big incident. It's usually demonstrated in silence. Silence after Ray Rice, silence after learning about the effects of CTE. They just don't care. Silence on the protests over racial injustice in this country and police brutality. Mm-hmm. I think Dave Zirin at The Nation pointed out that, and it brought back to memory for me, they didn't really do anything until the George Floyd protests. Then they started painting like end racism on like the outside of the end zones. And now they have like love wins or whatever they have on like their helmets now, like a little just like hollow,
and famously racism immediately ended after that time though. So you got to hand it to them, They did it.
It was effective. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I view the NFL as just like the bare minimum league. They're just going to do the bare minimum, especially with, we've seen, for example, Deshaun Watson. It's like, all right, we're going to give him a suspension, but, the NFL views the situation as, okay, did he do all that stuff? Probably, but he's great at football. We're going to put him back in the game because he's one cog in a wheel that turns billions of dollars for us. And so, as long as profit is prioritized over like player safety and ethics and morals, like as a huge lover of the game of football, I can't really see a path where it becomes like an ethical sport. And that's really depressing because there are so many moments in football that are just, I believe, like earnestly believe are beautiful. Like I think the game is incredible. Like I think, I can't, watching like Patrick Mahomes escape 3 attempted sacks and throw a no-look pass 60 yards down the field to a player who has to run at like literal Olympic speeds to catch them. It's like, that's incredible. And I love watching it, but it's such a shame that the league, organizing this play is so morally bankrupt. And I don't really see much of a path for reforms there. But hopefully something happens. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's never going to be a fully ethical scenario or league. It's just not. One step in the right direction would be guaranteed contracts for everybody who plays and immediately qualifying for a pension and other benefits post-career. Because right now you have to play 3 years. If Damar Hamlin never plays again, he doesn't qualify for a pension as it stands now. And these teams are owned by billionaires who get a ton of public money to fund these stadiums. Let's talk about it. The Bills asked for the entire cost of their new stadium to be paid by taxpayers just like a year or two ago. This guy is worth multiple billions of dollars, is in great financial shape, also owns the Buffalo Sabres. They want a new stadium, and they want 100% of the bill to be footed by taxpayers. In what world does that make sense? And when people are exploiting the citizens and the fans of the cities in which their teams play, they should also have the money. They should also be required to put up the money to cover the benefits for these players. And that includes guaranteed contracts. So if you have some freak accident in your first or second season that leaves you with a lifetime of pain, potentially a physical disability, you're covered because you're putting your neck out there for these fucking typically racist, Trump supporting or GOP supporting billionaires who own these teams, who just ultimately through other aspects of their life make the world a worse place. They're exploiting your labor and your physical well-being for profit. No, they can foot the fucking bill for your benefits.
Well, I think it's the kind of thing, too, that people get confused by without thinking about it too much. Like, well, these guys are rich. Like you said, he makes $800,000 a year. Like, what does he need benefits for? But like, people don't understand that, like, if you're a pro athlete and you're the absolute best of the best and everything breaks right, you don't have injuries and everything goes right in your career, well, you're playing maybe 10 years, 10, 12 years, right? And then that's your whole income for your main, for your entire life. So people get a little bit confused about that just because these guys make high salaries that they shouldn't have to pay for benefits or things like that.
Right. And we're talking about mostly like the stars of the NFL. Like these guys are going to be fine. But like, I mean, Damar Hamlin, I've heard of him, but I'm like, sure, most people haven't until this accident. And, some of these bit players, some of these cornerbacks, safeties, they don't make anywhere near the amount that players on the offense do. And so that's just something to keep in consideration too. The NFL knows that these players are like risking their lives. They know that they would put their lives on the line to win, and they're taking advantage of that. But like, if you know that a player is risking his life, then you have to, in a just world, you would match that energy with like the benefits and the payments, and that's just not the situation that we're in right now, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and just speaking to the whole like owner stadium thing we've talked about before, but it's like the ultimate example of like publicly subsidized, privately profitable, right? That's how we do it. That's how we do it in this amazingly efficient economic system that we love to brag to everyone about.
Yeah, you as the taxpayer have to foot the bill for the stadium and then get charged like an arm and a leg just to get into the stadium to watch a game.
Right. Yeah.
And then are price gouged at the concession stand. It's just such a fucking scam.
And then some guy gets the profit. And like when they win the Super Bowl, or if they do, he's the first person they go, here you go, sir. It's like, you didn't do anything. You didn't
I hate that.
You're literally just some guy. You're barely even involved.
That is the worst. Yeah, we're all here for Arthur Blank to hold up hold up the trophy.
It's the worst part of every trophy ceremony. It's like, oh yeah, the guy who I look up to is making a speech. It's great. Then they pass it off to this old crusty dude you've never seen in your fucking life, and he's sitting up there for 30 minutes. And so who is this guy? It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, God, the amount of times I saw Robert fucking Kraft up there, like getting his greasy little, like, happy ending palms all over the Lombardi trophy after doing nothing. So part of the conversation around this also, I saw a lot of people quickly taking to Twitter to be like, the NFL sucks. They don't care about their players. It's like, yes, they do. Yes, they do not care. I agree. The NFL does suck. They do not care about the players. But it felt like this wasn't the avenue to attack that. For this, I thought the target should be that these contracts should all be guaranteed, because if Damar Hamlin doesn't play again, maybe something will change because it is such a unique circumstance. But anyone else without this, without the profile, kind of a high profile on the injury, it's like, you're out. Sorry. We're only paying you to play. These are at-will contracts, unlike people like Deshaun Watson, who does have a guaranteed contract for years. He has I think close to $200 million guaranteed. So even if he just doesn't play for the remainder of that contract, he gets paid. But people like Hamlin, up and comers, young people, and the league churns through so many people. It's not necessarily, this story is not necessarily about the barbarism inherent in football. Right. It's about a freak accident potentially ending this guy's career with no guarantee of a safety net. And that is horrifying. And that is a problem throughout our economy and our workforce and our system. And there is just no adequate safety net in general in this country, but especially in the NFL, without the guarantee of contracts. And I just saw a ton of people who already hate football see this as a moment to be like, oh yeah, I hate this. It's so violent. This wasn't even that violent of a play. Yeah. It was a routine tackle. And then he got up. It was just that this freak accident stopped his heart. He was physically, his heart aside, he was fine. He didn't, break an arm or pull a muscle or anything. He was fine after that tackle. And I thought people totally missed the boat because they already hated the NFL, and that led to a lot of misguided criticisms, when this should be about, in any event, but especially in a freak accident, you should have a safety net for you. Like you pointed out, they cut the disability benefits. They cut the what was it, from $22,000 to $4,000 a month if you even qualify, and all players should be guaranteed a pension. If you're even in the league, you should be guaranteed a pension. It is dangerous, so you should guarantee that for everybody, not just people who are lucky enough to make it 3 years and then they vest. Right,
like the level of barbarism, as you put it, wasn't necessarily, that wasn't really a concern for this hit. But the idea that at any point in a football game, you can be taken out for the rest of your life, lends credence to the fact that these benefits should just be astronomically better for the players. I mean, even I'd go so far as to say that, obviously what happened to Tua was, that those are nasty hits, and that does have a little bit of a place in this barbarism conversation. But more concerning to me was the callousness shown by either the Dolphins or the league or whoever was making those decisions to put him back in a game 4 days later. We know the game is violent. We'd love for it to be less violent. We don't know how to get to that point, but more pressing than that, in my opinion, is how the league reacts to these incidents, and it's just abysmal.
And this happens in other sports too. This is an extremely common thing in Little League Baseball. It is the number one cause of death in Little League Baseball, and it has a much higher rate in sports like baseball and also lacrosse, where you're whipping a ball around very fast. It also
does Little League Baseball have multiple deaths in it? I've never. This was the first time hearing of this.
Yeah,
jeez.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It also happened in wrestling. It happened to Jerry Lawler. He got hit it was like getting elbowed in the chest repeatedly during a match, and then he went to finish calling the event, and then about 30 minutes later collapsed, and he had not a heart attack, but he had cardiac arrest. Yeah, and Rob, you were saying you were there. Yeah, could you talk about that?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was. I was there at Monday Night Raw watching, and it was just weird because I was in the 300s or something. I was kind of far away. It was kind of hard to see what was going on. But just because there was a Jerry Lawler match earlier, he was in a tag team match. I can't remember who he was teaming with, but against Dolph Ziggler and CM Punk, and he took a bunch of elbows to the chest. And then, went back to call the event, like you were saying. And then just sometime, 30 minutes later, it was really hard to see what was going on, but this really dark vibe just kind of settled on the arena. And it was clear that something weird and bad was going on. And there was a big, you saw people gathering around the announce table or whatever. And it was pretty hard to see what was going on, but then it became, I think people were checking their phones and everything. And, it was very strange. Yeah. It was a very strange thing to be a part of. I went, cause it was without commentary. It was really hard to tell because if you actually watched the event, you could hear like Lawler start to snore on the event. And then all of a sudden there's just silence. And then you have Michael Cole talking about what's going on. And then the rest of the event just happened in total silence, but it was very strange to be a part of.
So they didn't stop the event, right? They didn't stop.
I mean, WWE famously, when one of the wrestlers died in the ring, they continued with the event. They don't stop. They don't, no matter what's going to go on. Like that's the most extreme thing that could possibly happen. That's
crazy. They know he died, or they just like took him out and.
Owen Hart fell from a zip line. He was zip lining down to the ring, fell, however many stories into the ring, had to be carted out. And yeah, they continued the event afterwards. And yeah, they announced that he died at the event, which still continued.
In the event?
Yeah, which still continued. Wow. Yeah. You see WWE in that case being the like, in terms of like, capitalism in general or like sports in general, just being the absolute apex of all the worst instincts and the worst phenomenons, the way that they treat their workers, the way that they treat their contracted workers as independent contractors, and they don't pay them healthcare. They don't pay them hotel and car rental and all the things. Like these guys are on the road 300 days a year, and their company, they're not allowed to compete for other companies, but they're not official employees and don't get official benefits or overtime or like a salary like that. They're treated as independent contractors. All the worst instincts of American business basically is exemplified in pro wrestling, WWE.
Yeah, it is. It is by far the worst.
Sports world kind of just gets away with it with little to no scrutiny because of the idea that the players and the athletes are just, living lavish lives and making millions of dollars a year. And that's true in a lot of cases, but, a worker's right is a worker's right. And it kind of doesn't matter what scale we're talking about, especially if someone like Damar Hamlin, who's playing for, millions of dollars, can't access any of that money if something bad happens to him.
Yeah. The horror stories that you've heard time and time again from people post wrestling careers are just unbelievable. And unlike so many other sports, I mean, football is probably the closest. There's a lot of really traumatic stuff happens to football players post career, especially now that we see that CTE is the cause of a lot of it. But even before that, guys with just like really debilitating pain for the rest of their life. Wrestling just seems like unbelievably bad. Like how they treat their pain, like self-medicating with like alcohol and pain pills, just even while they're in the sport. It's really, really depressing stuff.
I do think there have been some improvements because there was that run in like the 2000s when it just seems there was just every single month another wrestler was dropping dead at 45 or 50 or like incredibly young. So I do think there has been some progress in terms of like tamping down that kind of lifestyle and also providing a little bit more care to the actual people that are putting their health and their bodies on the line to like entertain people and make billions of dollars for the company, that's always the thing when it comes to whether it's wrestling or whether it's the NFL or any other sport. When people complain about these athletes making exorbitant salaries, it's like maybe LeBron James makes hundreds of millions of dollars, but he's making hundreds of billions of dollars for the stadium, for the owners of the team, for the owners of the NBA, for the advertising companies, the corporations, the ABC, NBC, ESPN, like, they're creating billions. So yeah, they're entitled to a significant cut of that. They're the ones doing the actual work, not the owners of the teams.
Well, while we still have you here, Manny, we want to get your thoughts on Kevin McCarthy's quest for speakership. And we saw a battle coming leading up to this point where some of the Freedom Caucus, like the fringe right members of the GOP caucus in the House, were saying they weren't going to vote for McCarthy, but we didn't really know the extent of how long they'd hold out. Would it be one ballot? Would it be two? And what would they do? What did they want in exchange for their votes? You alluded to it earlier with the Lloyd Austin nomination, how that was framed as an advancement for equity, diversity, and inclusion. And now, after a few ballots, nominating different people like Andy Biggs and then Jim Jordan one round, they're on their 6th or 7th round now. And the past few, they've been nominating Byron Donalds, a Freedom Caucus member of the House from Florida. And they're trying to say that they're doing this because it would be a step forward for diversity because he is black. Now, as somebody who also looks at politics and news through a critical lens, would this be a step in the right direction for equity, diversity, inclusion, Manny?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. No, man, it's so crazy. When it comes to like parties or organizations, like choosing kind of or tokenizing someone, I'm just asking for like the bare minimum. Like, I'm asking for you to just prove to me that you've earned this selection in some way, shape, or form. For example, the Democrats choosing Hakeem Jeffries does not feel like a shot in the dark. It doesn't feel like they're spitballing. It doesn't feel like a just baseless kind of way to get people on their side. But we just saw this happen with the Republicans and Herschel Walker. I mean, they chose someone who they thought would resonate with black people, and it just shows how little they know about reaching out to their constituents, the few of them that there are, their black constituents. And so this whole process with the House Speaker vote is honestly, I found it really hilarious. Part of it reminds me of when the squad was first elected, and there was this concern from the Democratic establishment that, you know, these people were coming in to they weren't going to take no for an answer. They're here to blow everything up. And while since then, while the squad has like made stances and made their voices known, they've had to play the game of politics and placate to the establishment. That concern that the Democrats had is so much more applicable to what's happening with Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert. These guys might actually blow this shit up for like little to no reason, and the whole thing is just so entertaining to watch. I usually find Democrats antics on the floor cringe. Like today and yesterday, they were bringing out popcorn and like doing all these jokes, and usually that stuff is like, but yesterday I found myself a little bit pleased by it, just like because of how messy the Republicans are, and like, I don't know, it's been a source of entertainment for me, if anything, especially picking what's the guy's name? Byron Daniels. This guy you've never heard of in your fucking life. I mean, like, it's so funny to me.
I actually do have some breaking news on this. Just while you were talking, Manny, some news came in that they actually did finally agree on a Speaker of the House, and it's the Minions. What? Oh my!
Wow!
Oh my goodness, that's huge. That's a huge development. No, I don't know. But I thought that would play better than it did. But anyways,
that's good.
Yeah, thank you. It does, because I've seen people like relitigating the whole, not to get into this discourse, like even though as I'm saying it, I realize I'm doing it, relitigating the whole like force the vote thing, which people famously got very mad at us for being like, I don't know about this. I have a very mild take about this. And I'm just wondering, the whole premise of like forcing the vote was about forcing the vote on Medicare for all, right? And like holding up the vote for Speaker for Pelosi in order if they agreed to vote on Medicare for all, which in terms of like that actual strategy, I don't think that would have really accomplished all that much. I don't think it would have gotten anyone closer to getting Medicare for all. I don't think it would have led to some kind of like voter revolt as they realize, oh my God, I can't believe the Democratic Party is against giving everyone healthcare. Like they know that. They're very open about not wanting to do that, right? I don't really think that like that strategy would have meaningfully done all that much. I'm just wondering if there is any merit, or if either of you have any thoughts about this, about whether there is value in just indicating to the establishment of your party that like, we can fuck you over. Like, we have the ability to do this, not even for any real reason. Like what they're doing now, like they're saying, oh, they're getting all kinds of concessions. They're probably not, but they are indicating to their party that they're not just going to go along with what they want to do. And, we've seen the squad, or whatever the progressive members of Congress and the Democratic Party want to call themselves. like you say, Manny, they've tried to, I think, assert themselves in a few cases. Mostly they've kind of like gone along with what the establishment of the party wants in exchange for getting things like committee seats and things like this. But like, has this strategy really done much in terms of advancing progressive policy goals? Like, I'm not so sure. Like, would there be any benefit to just for no reason other than just to show the party establishment that you have the ability to do so? Would there have been a value in just in going after them just for that reason?
Right. I'm not sure pointing at the messiness of the Republican debacle right now is a good indication that force the vote would have worked, especially because the Freedom Caucus they are causing trouble, but like ultimately we're probably going to get Kevin McCarthy as the House Speaker. And so, what exactly is the benefit of this? The benefit is like you're showing your constituents that you mean what you say and you're taking a strong stance, but it's so much different than passing a bill, like this strategy to pass a bill, because that is the goal. And in both cases, the quote unquote goal isn't going to happen, if that makes sense.
The way I distinguish the original conversation in, God, what year was that? It feels like forever ago, but also yesterday.
It's 1998 at this point. Yeah.
But like that was the whole plan, was they do this in exchange for a floor vote that we know will fail, and then we can have media pressure on the Democrats over this issue, which isn't going to work. That's so far detached from reality. What Republicans are doing, what the Freedom Caucus are doing, they want rule changes to how they can remove a speaker. And now one of their new demands is they want to shut down the government rather than raise the debt ceiling, which is a disaster. That's the Freedom Caucus demand now in exchange for their votes. That's a mess. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to draw parallels to that because it's a bad idea in general. You don't want to shut down the government. It is a fucking nightmare. Like, raising the debt ceiling is fine, and that should be your, progressive position. Money's not real. And if that's where they want to dig their heels, okay. But in response, we've seen report after report of McCarthy now threatening these people, saying, I'm ready to declare full out war to people who have not supported him. And that was the concerns that we had raised, because members of Ilhan has received a primary challenge, and now and Tlaib has too, in the two times they've been reelected, and Tlaib once. There's a ton of money going into trying to primary Omar. Thumbing your nose at Dem leadership in the House. Look, to Rob's point, they're playing the game. You have to play the game. I'm sorry, that was Manny. And thumbing your nose at Pelosi or Dem leadership in general is not going to, draw direct confrontation from these people. But they might not say, hey, hold off on primarying these people, because in the couple elections since, Dem leadership has thrown their support behind members of the squad because they're incumbents. That's their stance. If you go out there and start attacking leadership, it's going to be, hey, open season, go get them. They might even fundraise to oust you. Akeem Jeffries kind of went right up to that line with his Team Blue PAC. That PAC with Gottheimer was singling out Justice Democrats to try to stop them from getting elected. If you want to thumb your nose and try to make a stand during what is ultimately a losing battle in the quest for speaker, because you just don't have the votes to change it, that's going to invite, if not removal from committees or worse committee assignments, it could invite just straight up attacks to oust you. And what position, how is that a better position to be in if you are a progressive member of the House, to lose your seat overall and not even have a voice in the conversation, than a failed House vote? I've never understood that strategy. But somehow here we are. We're still talking about it.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with a lot of that about the actual strategy and whether it would have delivered results. I guess it's ultimately a question of should these progressives take a more hostile approach to the establishment of the party to try and push for their goals, whether that's a strategy or not. because we've seen, like, frankly, a lot of the time, like throughout the first 2 years now of the Biden administration, they've kind of got played a couple times. Like when it comes to that infrastructure bill or the Build Back Better framework, when they tried to take the side of the establishment, and then the establishment ended up siding with kind of the Manchin sect and kind of making him the hero of the whole thing. So I guess that's what I'm wondering is like where that line is, like whether their strategy of just always seemingly kind of siding with the Democratic Party establishment in order to sort of get that, have that, be able to work within that process, versus, would it have been better to take maybe a slightly more aggressive approach? That's kind of what I'm wondering. I don't know what the answer is, but that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to predict. I guess we know that one way has worked historically. Not to the extent that we would like it to work, but there's just so much precedence of like that basic understanding of, yeah, I'm going to be cool to you now so that you can be cool to me later. It's not at all how politics should work, but it's how it does work. And it feels like a tall task to be like, let's blow that up and piss everyone off and see where it gets us. But I ultimately, like, I understand the anger and like the frustration and the idea that our elected officials should be fighting more aggressively for the stuff that we elected them to fight for. But there's a level of like pragmatism that you have to have when considering how they're going to try to get this stuff done. Especially with term limits where like, House representatives can just keep being elected over and over, and like they know that they're playing the long game. I don't know. It is a tough like middle ground to be in, because I found myself in the same stance that you guys were back when that force the vote stuff was happening, but it wasn't necessarily because I thought it was a bad idea to be more aggressive about and push harder for the stuff that you want. It's more just like a strategic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say do that in legislative battles where you actually can get something in exchange, not a guarantee that something will happen later. Because, like, to Rob's point, that's something that did happen multiple times over the last Congress, and it didn't pan out. Like, it's just that we get their word that at some point something will happen. That's the one thing we did see happen repeatedly over the past Congress, and nothing materialized. So if you really want something to happen, or you want to actually get a vote on something, do it in the amendment process. Do it by trying to change the legislation in exchange for your vote. One of the criticisms of the Congressional Progressive Caucus over the past several years has been they do not vote as a block, which makes it very easy for them just to get pushed over when they make a demand. Doing that, voting as a block, having Jayapal and whoever else runs it whip votes to have them vote as a block, doing that successfully will get you whatever you want in legislation. And then whether that passes ultimately the Senate is a different question. But if that's what you want, if you want a floor vote on these things, the CPC voting as a block is the way to do it. Not getting someone's word in exchange for a vote for a leadership position.
Well, you see how meaningless the term progressive even is when people like Hakeem Jeffries are part of the Progressive Caucus. You see how like maybe you need to do some little work of determining what that actually entails and what that means. And then you can vote as a block when you don't have this massive ideological difference between people that are all calling themselves progressive as kind of a branding exercise.
Right. Republicans get the leg up on this because, well, up until a few years ago, they had always just had the same ideas about everything. Every single one of them agreed about everything. They voted that way. They built partnerships that way, and it was so much easier to just work as a block. Inherently on the left, Democrats, I think, I don't know why, but like we just have so much more of a variety of ideas and ideologies that it's harder to create like cohesion and unity naturally. I mean, I think that's how politics should be. But yeah, it just sucks to have seen like Republicans get like really succeed on that just because they all were like, all right, yeah, let's get behind this one thing and push for it as hard as possible.
Well, I think your internet, Manny, is telling us that it's time to wrap.
Oh, no. Did I disconnect?
We don't even see you right now. Yeah.
Oh,
I see it.
God. All right. Well.
You do?
Yeah.
I think the Dem establishment is cutting my camera out. They're tired of me.
That's it. You've been silenced. Manny, Manny, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow you and your content?
You can follow me at the same handle on pretty much every social media app, which is just Manny Fidel. Also, give MSNBC a follow on TikTok and Instagram. My face is on there all the time. And I'm assuming you're following me because you want to see my face, and that's where it exists. So yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is a blast as always. Jordan, I can't wait for our little project to come out in a week or two.
Yeah, we got something up our sleeve. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, Manny.
Thanks, Manny.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening to The Insurgents. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can find us on iTunes or Spotify or at Substack, theinsurgents.substack.com. You'll get the latest episodes delivered straight to your inbox, as well as our newsletter. On Twitter, we are at InsurgentsPod. Tweet at us, harass Ken in our replies, and then send us your hate mail to theinsurgentspod@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening.